What's going on YouTube? So we all know that one dude at the park that is just trying to tell everyone to stop shooting threes, make fundamental passes, and is just getting on everybody's nerves. Well, we call that a boomer, and today I compiled some of the worst boomer takes that I could find on Reddit. Some of these are so out of pocket. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video. So our first post comes from a deleted user who says, "Post play is more exciting than a bunch of threes, even if it's less efficient." So where do I even begin with this? First of all, the term exciting is subjective and each person's going to have their own preference on what they like to see in a basketball game. To me personally, I like post play when it can be used effectively, and especially in today's game with shooters almost on every team on the court at one time. A good post-up player can draw two defenders and kick out, but when it's a big man taking up the whole shot clock to get into position and for a guard to get a good pass to him and for him to make a couple moves and score, it just slows the game down so much. And we've all become accustomed to like these fast-paced, high-scoring games. But yeah, overall, this isn't the worst take I've seen, but he's just missing the days of Tim Duncan and these big centers that were the star players on the team and could dominate just by doing fundamental post moves. Moving on to the next take, we got another deleted user who says, "Threes are honestly pretty boring because they mostly look the same." Now, I don't know what kind of basketball he's watching, but to say every three-pointer looks the same, I mean, he's not wrong in spot-up situations, but with the amount of guards that are so shifty and can get their shot off the dribble, you're really not going to find the same move leads to the same exact shot every time. Like if you watch Steph Curry, he's moving off ball to get a majority of his three-pointers. Or like Trae Young, he's sizing up his opponent and getting a shot off, or Jason Tatum sidestepping. So to say they all look the same is kind of weird. And to say it's boring. Now, this dude clearly probably grew up in a time where it was like the centers and slower paced game, but I don't think it's boring necessarily because you're watching these big, I mean, there's elite defenders on every team and they're usually guarding the best three-point shooter on the other team, and it's not like they're just getting free shots. Now, I mean, some spot-up shooters get free shots, but these dudes are having to work for their shots, and that's pretty exciting to me. This next take comes from Langolier27, who says, "Defense wins championships." Now, just looking at this, it's not wrong, but if we dive a little deeper, and I'm assuming here this is a generalization, but a lot of older heads think that offense should come second, and that really your team's life force comes from their defense, which I agree with. This is a take I agree with. I think a good defensive team that can still be solid on offense has a way better overall placement in the game. They have an overall better control over the game, I can say, because when it comes down to it, you're looking at numbers. If you can stop the other team from scoring more than they can stop you, you're going to win the game. So to say defense wins championships is a fair take. I know a lot of older people say this, but I would agree with this one. We have two takes left, and the last one I'm saving for the end is probably the craziest one that I found, but this one is a close second. That's why it's here at number 4. And this person says that the corner three is killing basketball. There should only be a three-point line above the break. Now, this would make the court, if we did take out the corner three, this would crowd the court so much because you're not going to want to have players spread out posting up or spotting up for a deep two that is just going to lead to less points. So there's going to be more players surrounding the three-point line that's there above the break. But what's probably going to happen is more people are just going to pack the paint. It's just going to make the flow of the game super weird. I don't know where he's coming up with this idea, but It's crazy. I would not say that this is something that the NBA should implement. It would just ruin the flow. And so let's get into the most craziest take here. And that comes from, it's a big one. That comes from Future Slave. A weird name, but it reads, I'm 50, and perhaps a majority of my basketball conversations over my life have been with boomers, so I think I got this covered. And his first point is the Cousy Russell Celtics played the best, most beautiful basketball of all time with a passing game that has never been seen since. Not my take. This is my dad and World War II era grandpa. So we'll just go here at one at a time. So the Cousy Russell Celtics, we all know, dominated the game for that era. So once again, beautiful. That's subjective to the person, but here's one point that we can pick apart of all time with a passing game that has never been seen since. Now, I went back and watched some highlights, and I recommend you can too. These passes, we've seen this since. Maybe not to the, maybe at the time it was like revolutionary, but these passes weren't anything special. They were just, people cutting and them giving them a two-handed bounce pass. And I would say like the greatest passing game that really revolutionized the game was Magic Johnson when he came in and started throwing these flashy passes. That's probably the best passing game that I can think of off the top of my head. But the next point, the ABA was in many ways superior to the NBA, and too much was lost in the merger. So I'm not, my knowledge on the merger is not super good. And this take in general, I don't know enough to talk about. I don't know enough to talk about any of this stuff, but I'm just making a video. But if this is your thought, I can do some research on this. But calling it superior, I feel like that's just subjective as well. And I don't know I don't remember if the ABA did they have a 3-point line? And I don't know. Let's move on to the last point, because this is the one that I really wanted to talk about. And it reads, current players aren't complete. Let me reread that. Current players aren't complete. Although there's been a noticeable drop off in this narrative, back when Iverson was in his prime, this was all anyone would say. And AAU bat ball is destroying basketball. So this is almost two takes in one. But to say current players aren't complete, I think that he's hinting at like there's a lot of one-trick ponies, and this isn't my opinion, but some things I've said like people think that Steph Curry's ruined the game because he only shoot threes. When if you actually watch the games, he shoots a lot of threes, but that's not all he does. And I think something that he would think a current player would lack is like defense. But yes, there's superstars that don't play defense, but I think I don't know if you could find that back then, but like James Harden, they would probably point out, doesn't try as hard on defense, but some of the numbers don't fit that narrative either. But like when I think of a complete player, I think of someone that can get his teammates involved, score in his own way, and play D. And I think that there's plenty of players, superstars and role players alike, that are complete in today's game. Someone that I could point at off the top of my head that I could say is complete would be like Kawhi Leonard. He's improved his shooting and he plays D and he gets his teammates involved, and his style of basketball won him a championship. So that's my thoughts on the current players aren't complete. But the AAU is destroying basketball. So I played AAU, and I can understand what he's talking about when you go out there and you're getting ready for a game. Some of these players are only out here to get highlights, and that's clearly not the best way to attract coaches' attention. It's a good way to get fans and followers, but coaches don't just want to see the best dunk that you can do or how many ankles you can take in a game. But to say it's destroying basketball, I think is completely wrong. This is giving these kids another opportunity to show themselves off. And I would rather have a world with AAU in it than not. I think we just need to maybe teach kids a little bit about what college coaches are going to look for in a player. And But there's still plenty of players that came up like just showing off their highlights that have got good attention, and then the coaches go to their high school games and that's it. They get an offer. But to say it's destroying basketball is just wrong. So that was the last take. If you guys want to see like a part 2 to this video, another episode, I'll be down. I can search some more. And I just want to say thank you for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.